Welcome to today's explainer. Let's step right into the deep, heavy fog of a small, isolated place called Ravenswood. There is this incredibly chilling atmosphere that hangs over the town, a suffocating silence that seems to come straight from the very center of the town square. You see, the folks in Ravenswood live by one strict, unspoken rule. It's not written down in any local ordinance, but everyone obeys it with absolute, terrified devotion. And that rule is never, under any circumstances, walk past the old clock tower after midnight. So today, we're going to unpack the terrifying source material of the Ravenswood legend and figure out exactly why that rule exists in the first place. It really brings up a question that gnaws at the very core of human curiosity. I mean, think about it. If a door has been locked from the inside for 50 years, what exactly is waiting on the other side? We're naturally drawn to the forbidden, aren't we? You tell someone they absolutely cannot go somewhere, and suddenly, boom, it's the only place they want to be. The Ravenswood Clock Tower stood there like a giant temptation right in the center of town. For half a century, it was just this dark, silent silhouette against the night sky, literally daring someone, anyone, to challenge the one rule keeping everyone safe. Okay, let's dive into this timeline to really understand the forensic reality of this abandoned structure. The whole mystery kicks off in 1974. The tower's creator, this master clockmaker named Jonathan Vance, just vanishes inside his own creation. When the police finally break into the building, they find the heavy wooden doors firmly locked from the inside. And here's the detail that absolutely gives me chills. The only key to those doors was resting quietly right on Jonathan's workbench. So no exit and no Jonathan. From that night onward, the giant iron clock at the top of the tower just stopped working. Its massive hands were completely frozen at exactly 12:07 a.m. for 50 long years. Fast forward half a century to a bitterly cold November night. A 19-year-old local kid named Leo, armed with literally nothing but a flashlight, a camera, and honestly, way too much curiosity, decides it's finally time to break Ravenswood's golden rule. Section 1. Breaking the Midnight Taboo. Imagine the sheer isolating quiet of a town that has locked all its doors and shut its blinds, leaving this teenager entirely alone in the shadow of this massive, forgotten tower. Leo walks up to the base and pries open a rusted side door. Stepping inside, his flashlight cuts through a scene that has been completely untouched by time. We're talking thick, undisturbed dust blanketing hundreds of complex gears, tightly coiled springs, and heavy pendulum weights scattered all over the floor. The air he breathes in is incredibly thick and stale, smelling heavily of metallic rust and that bitter tang of old copper. Step by step, with his boots echoing in the hollow space, Leo starts climbing the dizzying spiral staircase, ascending all the way up to the top room where the giant dormant clock mechanism is just waiting in the dark. Section 2. The mechanism awakens. Right, so up until this very moment, Leo is basically just exploring an old, derelict building. But as his watch ticks closer to midnight, the physical environment starts to drastically shift. Suddenly, at exactly 12:06 a.m., which is just 1 minute before the frozen time on the clock face outside, by the way, the room turns violently ice cold. We aren't just talking about a little draft here. It's a sudden, freezing drop in temperature that literally steals the breath right out of his lungs. The space, completely motionless for half a century, is finally beginning to stir. Tick. The sound is incredibly loud. It's this heavy, mechanical strike of iron that you'd feel right in your chest. Leo freezes completely, and right above him, the massive pendulum, which has been dead and hanging straight down for 50 years, suddenly begins its first slow, sweeping swing through the freezing air. Talk. Now the entire tower begins to shudder. As that pendulum reaches the peak of its arc and swings back, the massive iron gears surrounding Rio actually start to groan under the immense pressure of 50 years of rust. And then they start spinning. Slowly at first, but then really accelerating. Leo starts backing away in absolute panic, right? His trembling hands bring the flashlight up to illuminate the towering machinery. Tick, tock. The minute hand on that great clock face is slowly, relentlessly creeping forward. Section 3. The macabre discovery. Now, what's really interesting about this next part is, as Leo is backing away in sheer panic, he notices a bizarre structural anomaly. He's looking at what should be a masterclass in horology, but something is fundamentally wrong here. These giant gears aren't just made of your standard steel. Actually, they're tightly wrapped in these thick, abnormal brass wires, which is a complete deviation from standard clockmaking. These cables weave through the machinery almost like metallic veins, running directly down into a hidden glass chamber beneath the wooden floorboards. Compelled by a really morbid realization, Leo points his flashlight straight down. And here we find the horrific answer to a 50-year-old missing persons case. Inside that sealed glass chamber sits a human skeleton. Draped right over the bones is the decaying signature leather apron of Jonathan Vance, the master clockmaker who vanished back in 1974. But the most terrifying detail is exactly how his remains are positioned. Jonathan didn't just casually die in here, he was integrated into the machine itself. His bony hands are completely physically fused to a heavy brass crank lever, basically connecting him directly into the intricate network of brass wires powering the gears above. Click. This jarring, sharp sound of metal snapping into place suddenly cuts right through the grinding gears. The minute hand has finally hit 12:07 a.m. Section 4, A Heart for the Clock. The trap that was set 50 years ago has just been activated. Let's walk through this terrifying sequence step by step. First, a massive hollow bell strikes at exactly 12:07 a.m., literally shaking the dust from the rafters. Second, as Leo desperately turns to flee, the wooden door he walked through seamlessly vanishes, completely replaced by a solid wall of cold brick. He's entirely trapped. And then, step 3. From the darkest corners of the machinery, invisible brass cables suddenly snap out into the open. Leo drops his flashlight. The glass on the lens just shatters on the floor. And then, over the deafening roar of the gears, this mechanical, raspy whisper seems to emanate not from a person, but from the grinding metal itself. The clock demands a heart to keep time. Mine has finally stopped. Yours begins now. Before Leo can even draw the breath to scream, those invisible brass cables lock violently onto his wrists. With this sudden, terrifying force, he's swept completely off his feet and dragged downward, pulled relentlessly toward the grinding iron gears and that glass chamber beneath the floorboards. The darkness consumes him entirely as the machine claims its new battery. And this brilliantly illustrates the horrifying reality of the tower's power source. You see, for 50 years, the town knew only one reality. This massive iron clock frozen at 12:07 a.m., completely silent and dead simply because its maker's energy had finally run out. But the grim aftermath the next morning tells a totally different story. When the townspeople step out of their homes and look up, the clock is no longer frozen. It's actually keeping exact time. But here's the catch. The pendulum isn't just swinging with standard mechanical precision anymore. It is swinging with a very specific, steady, rhythmic pulse. The unmistakable rhythm of a beating heart. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly unsettling thought to take away from our explainer today. We know that the clock consumed Jonathan Vance, right? And when he withered away, it waited 50 long years in the dark for a brand new power source. Now it has Leo, but human bodies don't last forever. So decades from now, when Leo's heart eventually stops, who will be the next curious soul to break the rules and enter the tower?